Hi, it's Leslie, and thank you for joining the interview with Leslie Heaney. Have you ever wondered how women on the red carpet look so amazing? Or how they have the perfect haircut or perfect hair color? Or wondered who are the creators behind these incredible looks? Well, today I have the immense pleasure to speak with one of these magicians and visionaries, Adir Abergel. Adir is crowned the Hitmaker of Hollywood Hairdos by the Wall Street Journal. He's the creative force behind some of the most memorable moments in celebrity hairstyling, creating distinctive styles for such Hollywood heavyweights as Nicole Kidman, Charlize Theron, Kristen Stewart, Rooney Mara, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kristen Dunst, Reese Witherspoon, Anne Hathaway, Jennifer Garner. The list literally goes on and on. Adir is a frequent collaborator with world-renowned fashion photographers like Mario Testino and Annie Leibovitz, and he has worked with some of the most incredible fashion editorial clients like Vogue, W Magazine, Harper's Bazaar, and again, the list here goes on. And he has created also looks for major brand campaigns for everything from Dior and Chanel to Nike. Adir is also the creative director of Virtue Labs, a visionary hair care brand that is literally transforming the hair industry. And if that is not enough, he has won countless awards for his work, most recently receiving the Hairstylist of the Year award at the Hollywood Beauty Awards, an award that was given to him by his dear friend and client, Jennifer Garner. Adir is a friend of mine from this wonderful trip that we took to Italy about 2 years ago. I loved and cherished every minute of being on this trip with Adir, and I had loved every second of my interview with him. He is the most tremendous person, a true inspiration with an incredible life story. I enjoy, again, as I said, every second with him, and I know that you will too. And with that, here is the extraordinary Adir Abergel. Adir, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Baby, anything for you. Anything. After hiking the world together, we get to do anything together.
You know, I was trying to explain to somebody, because I didn't tell you this, but I went to Senegal with Nick, our friend Nick from the
really?
See his not-for-profit. I took my 14-year-old. But for listeners, Adir and I met on a hiking trip.
We did.
Kind of a fancy hiking trip, actually.
Very fancy. Very fancy.
We'll stick with hiking in Italy, and had so much fun. I mean, you were much further ahead than I was. My hiking partner was Nick, who's in his.
Oh, that's right. That's true. That's
and I
true.
think had a knee replacement. And you and your husband Cello were, up at the front, keeping everybody, moving.
It was amazing. It was such an amazing trip to just kind of push yourself and see your own limits, but then also just come back skinny, which was
100%. I mean, I think I actually won the Biggest Loser from that.
Did you?
Yes, I came out because.
How many inches did you lose?
Well, I lost 8 pounds, and I actually.
Crazy.
I asked them when I weighed in. I told them not to tell me. So when I was leaving, and they told me to wait. Remember this? And I said, I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to know my start weight. I want to know where I ended up. It's like, that's where you ended up. So it was sobering. But,
oh my God, so fun.
But it was so much fun. But I am just so happy to see you. And everyone who's listening can't wait to get the full behind the music on Adir. So tell us, take it from the top. Where did you grow up? Where are you from?
My name's Adir Abergel. First of all, thank you, everyone, to listening to this amazing podcast. I was born in Israel. Both my parents are Moroccan heritage. They moved to Israel in the 60s, and I grew up in Israel until I was 7 years old. I grew up with a mom who was an amazing, amazing artist, and my father was a human rights activist. My dad started the Black Panther movement in Israel at a very, very early age and really fought for equality within the Middle East. And it's a very complicated story because people don't know about the Black Panthers in Israel. And the Black Panthers in Israel were basically about the Mizrahis, which were basically people who had moved from places like Morocco or Iran or Algeria basically a lot of these like Mediterranean places, Northern Africa's areas. And when they moved there, they had a lot of inequalities and they were put into kind of the slums of Israel. And my father was very frustrated as a young kid and started an entire movement and went and fought with like Golda Meir and like everyone else. So I grew up protesting most of my childhood in Israel. And at 7, I was sent away to go and live with my aunt in the United States. And so I moved from Israel to Sunset Boulevard across the street from the Guitar Center.
As one does.
Yes, as one does, with hookers and a lot of metalheads. And that was basically the introduction of coming to America.
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, that is almost like the movie Coming to America.
It is.
So, and you too, started with this passion in the arts, right? Dancing was your first love, right? Didn't you start?
I actually, the first kind of love that I had was singing. So when I had gone to elementary school, I went to this elementary school, Gardner Elementary School, and there was an amazing choir teacher there called Mrs. Treptow. And Mrs. Treptow took a liking to me and to my voice. And I kind of became one of like the lead singers in the choir. And early on, when I was around 10 years old there, Michael Jackson got dedicated the auditorium and came there, and I ended up singing for him We Are the World with the entire choir. And then I ended up actually going on tour with Michael as a young kid for We Are the World tour. And then from there, I went to junior high school and I started singing with Brandy, who was an enormous singer during that time. And we represented our junior high school together. So
when you were touring with Michael Jackson, so he heard you sing at your school and
Correct.
then said, would you come on tour? Because did he have a child's choir that was singing?
Yes, in the background for We Are the World. And so we basically went ahead and did that. And
What was that experience like?
I mean, I just always loved expression and individuality and kind of like expressing myself. So I didn't really understand like how big that actually, what it actually even meant. I just kind of went ahead and sang. And so it was something that I absolutely loved. And I kind of did that. And so I don't remember it being this like big prolific like thing within me. It's never been. I'm kind of more of a very pragmatic person. It's like there's something in front of me. I go and do it. I really enjoy it. I give it all my heart. And then I kind of move on. And the same thing when I did that with Brandy.
I mean, Brandy was huge. Brandy was
huge. It was like Brandy and Monica and all of those people around that time. Yes, exactly.
Were you like on the bus touring? Did you go to the?
No. We basically, there was a few concerts that were happening around Los Angeles. And so we ended up doing those tours around LA.
I mean, that is like, look at you, like right out of the gate. You're like, you just get to the States.
I know.
You've been like, you're doing what?
And it was interesting because, I had to learn English very, very, very quickly, Leslie, because I came here only speaking Hebrew at the time. And I had this amazing teacher named Mrs. O'Connor, who I still remember very, very well. And she just truly invested in me learning the language. And I think within 6 months, I spoke English fluently. I was so grateful to her and still am so grateful to her because, you need people who believe in you early on, and early education is so incredibly important. And I was just lucky enough to be around some amazing educators who really invested in me.
I just interviewed Denise Graves, who you may know as this kind of world famous opera singer.
Yes.
He was talking to me just about the same thing, about the importance of these teachers at different moments in her life that really invested in her kind of above and beyond what was happening in the classroom, took her to recitals on the weekends. In this case, this woman investing in you and teaching you how to speak.
1,000%. Or Mrs. Treptow, who really believed in me and singing and gave me a voice and allowed me to have the confidence to, be able to do that. And, I was going through big changes in my life. I had left my father and mother and sister and brother all behind and moved into a new country with an aunt that I didn't really know deeply. And so it was a lot of changes. So to have music and to have the arts and to have, and this was a public school. This is not like you're going to some private school. So there's some incredible, amazing human beings on the planet that really, really love what they do. And so I learned kindness at a very, very early age.
Yeah. Yeah. And just how one person can really make such an impact and such a difference.
Yes.
So you're singing with Brandy, you're singing with Michael. Then did I read this correctly that you started doing your mother's friend's hair when you were 10 or your aunt's friend?
Yes. So basically, so we didn't grow up with a lot of money. We lived in an apartment where both of her sons lived there, and her husband and her and me. And so, to make extra money and take extra money to school and like be able to do all of that, I was like, I need to hustle. I need to figure out a way to do this. And so I saw that all of her friends were basically coming over and getting their hair color done and getting like, needing blow dries. And so I was like, can I apply your color for you? And so that was like an extra like $4 a day. And so I was like, okay, amazing. I'll apply your color. And so then I applied the color. And then one of the friends said, will you help blow dry the back of my hair? I can show you how to do the front. And so then I would kind of do that. But I never really thought anything of it. It was just like a way and a means for me to make a little bit of extra cash.
I mean, so I was going to say, did you read the instructions on the box, or you were just learning?
No, I just it was probably messy. I probably dyed their foreheads. But somehow that was better than them doing it themselves.
But then you had that experience, and then somehow they gave you the confidence to apply for a job, right? With Arthur John. You're 15.
Yes, so I'm 15. I'm 15 years old. I end up taking my GED. I graduated from high school, and I decided to go to Santa Monica College and basically take cosmetology school there. Yeah. And so I go to cosmetology school there, and about a month into it, I realized like, oh, this is just about sterilization and sanitation. This is not really about teaching me how to do hair, right? And so
is it like they're like, make sure this brush doesn't touch that brush?
Yes, exactly. I mean, at that point, like really, like they're trying to like make you not kill people or give them the bubonic plague, right? So you're like, okay, all right, I understand what this is really kind of all about, right? And so very, very quickly, I had heard that someone was looking for an assistant. And I was like, oh, I don't even know what the fuck that means. But like, guess what? I'm going to get up and go and take the bus to Beverly Hills and go in for this interview to become an assistant. And so I get on a bus. I go from Santa Monica to Beverly Hills. It was on Beverly Boulevard between Robertson and Doheny, if anybody knows where that is. Yeah. And I go to this salon, and it's named Salon and Nico, and I know nothing about this place. And I end up sitting with this guy who somehow, don't ask me, at the end of our interview, I had convinced him that I was dropping out of school and that he was going to do an apprenticeship program so I can get my license through him, and that he had to go to school. So he had to go to school instead of me going to school. And somehow I ended up doing that. And what I realized very, very, very quickly once I started working with him and dropped out of school is that he was probably one of the most prolific hairdressers of the 70s, 80s, 90s. Our clients were Tina Turner, Shaka Khan, Olivia Newton-John, Julie Christie, Diane Carroll. He did the Princess Leia bun. He did Olivia Newton-John. When Karen Carpenter passed away, he had done her for years and did her for her funeral for the open casket. So this man was prolific. He could take a few hairs and create sculptures out of it. And I ended up working for him for almost 7 years, Leslie, and these women became my mentors, these amazing, strong, powerful amazing women that I got to see on a human level because they came in for their weekly hair. They didn't come in as celebrities. And, they ended up really loving me and really teaching me a lot about strength in women and empowering women and the power of what hair can do for an individual when they feel powerful through that craft. And that's how it started.
Yeah. So you really responded to sort of seeing the impact that your mentor basically had on their hair and how that made such a difference to them, right? Or that
on their hair, on life, on listening, on conversation, on empathy, on respect, on exchange of creativity. There's so many elements to hairdressers, and I respect my hair brothers and sisters so much because it's so much more than just doing hair. When you really think of hair and kind of the history of hair, when you think of, as an example, of Tina Turner, you think of her big hair and her legs, right? When you think of Dolly Parton, you think of her big hair. When you think of Cher, you think of Cher moving her hair to either side. When you think of Cleopatra, you may not know a lot about Cleopatra, but you think about her bangs and you think about her strong bob. When you think about Louise Brooks, you think about her finger waved short hair. So hair is a real way for you to find an individual voice. When you think about John Bon Jovi, you think about that big hair. Hair is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly impactful. And I'm not surprised that even, Samson, like when you think about, the Bible and when his hair was cut and him losing all the power around it, it's all an analogy of the power that comes from this individual way that you express yourself, right? But I think that ultimately, it's also the relationship and the trust that ends up happening between a hairdresser and the client, right? And I think also there's something really beautiful because you're sitting behind the person and the person is looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
So it's not as combative. There's a beautiful space that you can kind of create for yourself where I think if you're getting your makeup done and someone's sitting in front of you, there's a lot more vulnerability that can happen.
That's interesting because I think of my mother and the relationship that she had with her hairdresser and the relationship that I have with my colorist is you share so much. And I wonder, you're talking about those women coming in once a week. I mean, that's building a real relationship and you are having this intimacy, right? But you're also, you as the stylist are doing something like they'll say to parents, if you want to get your kids to talk, do it in the car where you're not looking directly at their face. You're driving.
Yes.
And there's something about people
interesting.
Talk to their hairdresser, right? About maybe it's because you're looking down, then you're looking in the mirror and you're doing something.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's something there because I've noticed the difference and the intimacy that happens between hairdressers. And I'm always very interested in relationships, right? And I grew up around these women who had very deep relationships with us. And, at the end of the day, our legacy is our connections to one another and what we give back, right? And the exchange that we give to one another and what we leave behind. And so that's something that has always been very important for me in my career. And I think that's how I built these 25-year relationships with all of these people.
Right. And you also knowing what's happening in their lives. Like, let's say there's a big transition, someone's going through something tough what do you want to do? Or how do you feel like kind of getting an idea of where you're at, right? And
for sure, 1,000%. I mean, at some points in your life, you feel more confident to take more risk.
Right.
At some points in your life, you feel more vulnerable. So you have to be very gentle with that. For me, my job is a very interesting job today because I get to work in many different factors of the beauty industry as a hairstylist, right? So I may be doing girls for the red carpet when they're going to the Oscars, which is making them feel confident as themselves, but still storytelling. So taking Norma Jean and making her into Marilyn Monroe, right? But at the end of the day, she's Norma Jean. So now I'm creating this storytelling around who she wants to be as she's going out there into the world. Then I also design movies, which has nothing to do with the individual, but more about the script and the character. Or then I'm shooting specifically for a Chanel campaign, which really is a representation of what the brand's visuals are wanting to say out there to the public and to the market, right? And so there's many different facets as I'm doing this now that I have to think about as a variable.
Oh, definitely. Well, I was going to ask you sort of, you talked about the red carpet, right? How do you handle, because I've seen this by watching you on your Instagram.
Yes.
I'm like, wait, how are you doing Nicole Kidman and then doing like Kristen Stewart or something for the same
Yes, for the same
right?
event.
So, and obviously they're going to let you know, I would think, like kind of what they're wearing or what they're feeling or what, but you have to kind of.
So because I started in a career being mentored, mentorship is one of the big legacies and importance that I have taken on. And so I have an army of these incredible, talented young kids that I mentor and that I help them build their careers. And in turn, I have a community that if I am doing multiple people, I have my assistants who can be there as I come in. I can do someone early, leave an assistant behind, go and do another person. Also, I also have an amazing team of agents that have been with me for almost 23, 24 years. So they understand how to navigate my schedule and also the importance of, okay, is this girl getting nominated this year? Well, maybe she'll get the prime spot, right?
Right.
It's like almost like the only way that I can kind of explain it is if it's your wedding, it is your main date, right? So you're going to get the prime time spot. But your bridesmaids, who also need to be done, might go before you, right? And then I might leave an assistant with them after I initially helped do them. And so that's kind of how you have to think about it. And so I really function in a way of like the importance of how that moment is for you, who can kind of go first, whose hair has more vulnerability, meaning in staying, like if I'm doing Kristen Stewart and her hair is shaved off, she can obviously go off, she can go first, while I'm doing Nicole Kidman, who may need more of a blowout that is sustainable and holding for, 13 hours as she's going out there. So,
but before they come, do they,
yes,
you're doing like, your team is doing probably all the prep of what are they wearing, right?
That's a complicated question because the variables are different for every situation.
Okay.
There are days literally that, let's say Charlize Theron is literally landing from doing a movie. She hasn't had a fitting yet and she has to go to the Oscars. So we don't even know what dress it's going to be. There's probably 4 or 5 dresses that she's going to try on even the day of. But what I do internally, so we are a very well-oiled machine here where we kind of prepare for any variable that may come. So it may be that we have wigs, so it'll be long hair. I have extensions. I have a colorist on hold. So everything can change. I do Pinterest boards where there is inspiration from updos to long hair to anything that I think could fit into the essence of the individual. And each person has an essence, right? What I do on Kristen Stewart, I wouldn't necessarily do on Reese Witherspoon. What I do on Jen Garner, I wouldn't do on Rooney Mara. You know what I mean? So every single person has their own energy. And I really try not to homogenize humans, but really find their essence and tell their story that way.
That's incredible. And then when you're working for an ad campaign, like you mentioned,
Correct.
Chanel, or you're doing
Chanel, Dior,
what,
Balenciaga, anything. Yes.
how does that creative process work? Do they tell you that we want like a pixie cut or is it still the similar type of process where
no, the process is a little bit different. So, when you're dealing with these big corporations, they have art directors that are putting together an entire narrative of what they want that to kind of feel and look like. They're putting millions and millions and millions of dollars behind it in ad dollars, right? So they know the essence of their brand, right? The same way that I know the essence of Jennifer Garner, they know the essence of Chanel, right? And so I now need to sit down, have meetings, understand what they're thinking. Then I can kind of go back to them, say, all right, this is your thoughts. This is what I'm thinking around it. Here's a mood board. So I act as like my own creative director in a way. I then go there and collaborate with them. And I always know what the individual essence is. So I marry both of those things together. So you have to have high emotional intelligence, how to deal with a large group of people who are wanting their vision to come across, but yet keeping the essence of the individual that you are photographing for this campaign, ultimately.
But because of your reputation, right, and your level of expertise, I would think that you're doing your mood boards and you're having these meetings. They really, I think probably they hired you because they want to sort of allow you to take those reins a little bit.
For sure. And my aesthetic. I mean, look, at the end of the day, right, we all have a different aesthetic. Every painter has a different way of painting, right? For me, I really love hair that feels like hair. I love enhancing women. I love women. I love their beauty. So I'm not trying to do something that takes them away. It's interesting with like Kristen Stewart, like so many people get very angry that she has like a mullet or that we shaved her hair off or that there's like literally a razor cut on the side. And I'm like, it's not about what you like. It's about what she feels she wants to say to the world through her hair. Yeah. And so I'm always trying to find the balance, even for these brands who may be selling to conservative people. Like, yes, but this is the beauty of this individual, right? And so finding that and how do you kind of tell the story together and making it appropriate for everything. So it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful process. And yes, they hire me for my eye and for knowing how to create the balance always. And that's beautiful and humbling that I get to be trusted not only by my clients, but by these huge corporations and these huge brands that I respect immensely. And, by photographers, really, ultimately, because photographers have their own vision as well, and directors and studio heads. And so it's really beautiful that I've been able to grow my business not only into servicing my celebrities, but really being able to be trusted across the board around so many creatives.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. And tell me, when you're like, you probably are always looking, right, for places for inspiration, right?
Always.
Where are you sitting on the street corner by the, like seriously, just looking? Because I feel like friends designers are always kind of looking around, sort of looking for like,
The truth is that the human race has been around for many, 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 many years, and nothing is really original. There is always your interpretation of something that you can kind of take, but there is so much beauty in individualism as humans. And if you actually, because I travel the world so much, I am at airports all day long. I am sitting in amazing cafes around the world, and each demographic of humans have such a different way of expressing themselves. And so being out in the world, I am constantly looking for things that are interesting. I'll give you an example. I was just at the airport and I saw this guy that had this amazing haircut. He was like probably like in his 60s, but he had, you know how back in the day there was a rat tail and it was just like a single rat tail?
Yes.
Well, he had 4 of them in a row. And they were kind of stacked on top of one another. And I just thought like, oh my God, how brilliant is this? And it just opened up my mind to this thing that I was working on for Balenciaga, where I just did this campaign where I was able to take long hair and create these 4 braids that were kind of sitting on top of one another. So I was able to take something that I saw out on the street that was worn in a very specific way that kind of told a lot about this individual, but then put it into a beauty format that looked a lot more polished and a lot more architectural, but in a different way and in my own way. And so I'm always finding inspiration everywhere. I mean, architecture for me is enormous, right? So hair.
I remember the pictures that you took in Italy were incredible.
Yeah. I mean, for me, look, photography is the format that I get to tell my storytelling through.
Yep.
And I have worked with the most amazing photographers of my generation. I have worked with every single one of them. And I am so lucky that I have been around that much beauty that I would be an idiot not to be able to soak that up and take it for myself. So now photography has become such a huge part of my life as well because of social media and the way that we storytell through social media. And so now I've almost have this beautiful relationship with my girls where they trust me to take their image and to be able to put it out into the world.
So you're taking those photographs that you're posting on Instagram of your clients.
Yes, those are mostly my photography.
They're awesome.
Thank you, Leslie.
So you were talking earlier about, you were working for Arthur John and you're having these, incredible titans of the entertainment industry coming in every week.
Women, specifically women. Women have really shaped me, and that's why I'm such an advocate for them, because I just love them. I love them so much. I find you to be, I need a woman for president. Let me just say that.
No, we do. We really do.
We really do.
When did you decide to go out on your own? You mentioned that they were kind of mentors to you. Were they?
Yeah. I went on my own when I was 21. I was burnt out at a salon environment that was hours and hours and hours and hours and hours a day. And I think that I was looking for something. I didn't really know what it was, to be very honest. And along the way, I had met this guy named Dave Navarro and Jane's Addiction.
It was just going to say, is that the guy? Yeah.
Yes. And they had said to me, I said, oh my God, I'm a hairdresser. And they were like, oh my God, we need a hairdresser for our photo shoot. Will you come and do this photo shoot for us? I knew nothing. I didn't have a kit. I didn't know what freelancing looked like. I knew nothing. I just knew I knew how to do some hair. Probably not great hair because I was just on my own for the first time. So I go to this photo shoot. Anthony Mandler is shooting it. And it was incredible. It was incredible to be able to create something, then put on this incredible lighting, work with the photographer, create these shapes, and then visually see them in a magazine. This was the magazine era. So I was like, I got the bug immediately. And the photographer ended up really loving me. And he was a very famous photographer in California at that time. And he just kept booking me for his photo shoots. And so I ended up like building an entire book through working with him. And then early on, I went and got an agent. I showed them the stuff that I had built in my book through working with this guy, Anthony Mandler, and through a bunch of other photographers. I had realized that I needed to build a book because at that time, there was no internet. The only way that you would get a job is you would get a physical portfolio where you would put your images inside there. That would get sent through a messenger to the photographer or to the job, and they would get 20,000 books, look through them, and pick the person that they thought did the best hair that would work specifically for their job.
And so you're sending your book around. You had that great experience with that first, right, the Jane's Addiction shoot.
Yep.
That photographer starts booking you. And then from there, you just keep, and are you kind of building your celebrity clientele? Like for people.
I mean, I didn't even know what celebrities meant. I honestly, even working all these years with like Tina and Shaka and like, and Julie, I didn't even know I just thought these were like the most amazing, powerful women. Like I really weirdly, and like still till this day, I love powerful humans who utilize their mind and their heart and their relationship. And so that's what I'm attracted to, right? Like that is what I'm attracted to at the end of the day. It's not the celebrity aspect, it's the celebration of the woman. Right. So I always say like celebrities are just celebrated women because of what they've been able to impact our popular culture with, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's how I've always looked at it. So I never really understood like the celebrity element of it. I understood the celebration of the individual.
And just being around someone is extraordinary, you know.
Exactly. Because by the way, it's a very hard thing to become a celebrity. And it is very hard work to truly have prolific work where now you win an Oscar, where now you are doing work for Save the Children for 25 years because you really believe in it. And you have these multitude of things in your portfolio or in your LinkedIn or in your, resume at the end of the day. Yeah. But, so I that's where it started. And then I ended up getting an agent and all of a sudden I was doing all of Missy Elliott's videos.
Oh my God.
Because music videos were enormous. And I started working with this guy, Malik Saeed, who was one of the most like prolific Black directors of that generation. And then I worked with Mark Romanek. And then I worked with Chris Cunningham. And then I started working with Britney Spears. And then from there, I ended up working with Jewel. And then from Jewel, I ended up working with, a bunch of singers. And then that kind of became my world, the music video world.
Yep. So fun. So fun. I mean, I have so many Britney questions.
So fun and so exhausting, like so tiring. People don't realize at that time, it was like the wild, wild west. You would work, and I'm not exaggerating, Leslie, when I'm saying this, 22-hour shoots and then go to sleep for 3-4 hours and come back and shoot again. Because
videos?
For music videos. Because it was these budgets and you had a very limited amount of time. There was so much background dancers, background singers, so much for you to do. So it was like literally like a factory. And also during that time, it was during the time of like R&B and rap and all of that. And so there was a lot of bad behavior happening on sets at that time. And so it was exhausting.
That's a real behind the music. You could do like a movie,
it's like a movie, just that alone. So anyway, so that was really kind of like the beginning of my freelance world. And, people don't realize like it takes a lot of work. Now, if you look already at the history, I had been working already since I was like 10 years old. And by 15 years old, had a full-time job that was probably 60 to 70 hours a week, right? And illegal, but like, who cares?
I love it. By the way, I mean, I'm ready to go,
Yes.
at 14-year-old. He actually was doing lawn work earlier, but this is
yes. No. Get to work. And then, by like 21 on my own, not knowing where I'm going to make my money, living with like 3 roommates. So nothing is easy. Like now you look at someone's life and where I am today, and you think like, oh, how amazing. You're this amazing like celebrity hairdresser, and you are a creative director of a biotech hair company. But it has taken so much energy and so much focus to be able to build a career like this, right? And I think nothing is so linear and easy. Maybe other people have had that experience, but I definitely have not. It has been a labor of true love to create this career for myself.
And when I'm listening to you, though, knowing one of your superpowers is how you relate to people and how easily you develop friendships, right? And those relationships obviously have had such a great impact on your career. But you also, when Jane's Addiction was like, we want you to come and do our music video, a lot of people would be like a little nervous.
1,000%.
Right? Because you have, as you're describing your story, for listeners, for any kind of a takeaway here, it's like, you say yes and you take the risk. You go to the salon and you walk in and you just tell them that you need to have them create an apprenticeship for you so that they can be the one to help you get your license, right?
I think the fear in life is that you haven't lived life.
Yeah.
And the truth is that experiences are beautiful, and fear is a natural format that will come into your life always. It's not that I'm not fearful, right? It's more that I want to act from love and not fear. And so I'm always, when I look at the pendulum and I see that I'm living in more of a fearful place, I always try to push it into the other half. And that other half is yes. The fear is no. The love is yes. And so even if you're fighting with your husband, even if you're like in a situation with friends, it's about saying, yes, I actually hear you. Let me hear actually your perspective. Because if I'm saying no, it's out of fear of not being understood, or the fear of you not hearing me. So you have to get to that place of love first before you can truly be a vessel for anything else.
And just don't let fear take over, right? You just can't let fear take over.
Correct.
Tell me, okay, I want to know, is there any celebrity or personality or person that you haven't styled or you haven't done that you'd like?
Can Maya Angelou please come back? I mean,
yes.
Again, like, I think that for me, it's around being around incredible minds. And so it's very hard to say who hasn't come into my life, right? The way that I tend to pick people in my life that I work with is always through the work and not through, is this someone cool right now? Is it actually someone that I respect? Is it someone that I actually respect their mind? Is it someone that I want to be spending that kind of time with? Is it someone that I want to invest my time into building, right? Because, and by the way, it could be someone who just did a brand new film that just literally was in Sundance, but I saw it and I'm like, oh, this person needs me to invest my time into them because I believe in them, right? And it could be Hillary Clinton, who I love, who I will make sure that I go there because I want her to be represented in the world in the best way. Because unfortunately, humans judge through the initial viewership of what they see, right? We just saw right now this insane situation with the presidency between Trump and Biden. And all we're doing is we are judging specifically on the way that they looked, right? Not on so many other ways. Like everyone who I've spoken to is always talking about like, oh, he looks sick. Oh, he looks old. Oh, he looks too orange. Oh, he looks like not enough. And so it's interesting. It's interesting how we utilize visual to set our first initial reaction. And I think when you look at history, that's why Norma Jean would not have sold you a sexualized person. And that's why she became Marilyn Monroe.
Right. Well, it's so funny to me as I'm looking here and that I interviewed a friend of mine who's a plastic surgeon.
Yes.
And the whole time that we're talking, I said to him, like, Doug, can you see what I need to have done? And as I'm sitting across from you, I'm like, the air conditioning has blown out on the side of the house. My hair, I'm like, I can tell Adir's like,
No, I don't judge. You know when I would? If you're going to put effort into it and it's not right. The wonderful thing is like, look, I'm wearing a hat right now as we speak. Because who wants to deal with this situation? I don't want to deal with it. So bye. Thank you, hair.
Well, I should have got, I mean, I literally, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is hilarious.
No, you're gorgeous. Your skin is beautiful. You have hair on your head. You're healthy.
I mean,
you have a beautiful mind. Like, what a beautiful combination of things.
Let's talk about, since I turned 50 this year.
Yes.
I want to talk about what you're doing with Virtue.
Please.
The hair itself. I mean, obviously, you talked about you like working with real hair, or
I like working with the fiber. The fiber and the human, because it really is like sculpture, right? So hair, if you manipulate it the right way, if you know how to add more hydration to it, if you know how to dry it out, if you know how to wash it right, if you know how to use the right amount of heat, all of it becomes your incredible way to sculpt, right? So the minute that I start with hair, the first thing that I do is I touch it. And I can tell you immediately if it needs more hydration, if it needs more washing, if it's a little bit too oily, if it's a little bit too dry, if 350 degrees is going to work better on it than using 125 degrees. So it's almost like, think about like baking and like sculpting with like clay. Like ultimately it has its own conversation, because even when you're working with clay, if it doesn't have enough moisture in it, it's going to start cracking. If you put enough water in it, it's going to start getting hydrated. You can create different shapes. So Virtue, like when I work on product development for the products, I think about the problem and then the solution.
So do you find with women with aging that their texture of their hair changes, or is it really just depends on the person? And
I mean, no, 1,000%. Nobody has really spoken deeply about hair aging, right? We talk about our skin. We know how to use a cleanser every day on our skin. We know how to use a serum. We will use then a mask. We will then take something and use under eye like cream. Then we'll do a face mask twice a week. Like somehow we've been able to understand the aging of skin, but hair has kind of been for many, many years before Virtue truly a kind of a cleanser and a moisturizer. There hasn't been a lot of science or money put behind the science of hair. And now that we are in an era of biotech for hair, you are seeing so many people understanding so much more that when you have the right molecule size, you can start reversing the aging of hair. And Virtue has been able to do that with a bioidentical protein that is the exact same size as our own keratin in our hair. So it can go in and really start repairing hair and reversing the damage of your hair.
So for listeners, you have this collaboration with Virtue.
Correct.
And you are, one of your key ingredients is keratin, but you just were describing that what they've done, this science that they have is unique to Virtue.
Oh, it's 100% unique. We have our own laboratories that are millions of dollars laboratory in North Carolina, where we have scientists working there and extracting this bioidentical protein that then gets put into every single product. Not L'Oreal, not the biggest conglomerates in the world have their own ingredient that they make themselves. So we are the only hair care brand in the world that makes this proprietary, where we have 19 patents on the extraction process of this specific protein that reverses damage in your hair and ultimately anti-ages it.
That's amazing. Well, you sent me that. It's like it comes in a jar like this. It's almost like a mask for your hair.
Oh, yes. So that's the hair mask. That's the weekly.
I love it.
Yes. And the shampoos are the first shampoos ever on the market, not just to remove debris, but also repair the hair as you're shampooing your hair. And so that's a completely new technology that we have not seen before. And everything that we're working on, the way that we do it is it goes through third-party testing, where if the product doesn't function immensely better with the keratin, so we take one with the keratin in it, one without, we send it to a third-party testing that doesn't know anything about anything. They test the products against each other. And if the keratin doesn't perform X amount better, we throw it away and we start all new product development, all new PD.
Incredible. I'm going to get the whole line because the mask was so incredible for my hair. I mean, it changed.
It does.
Texture of my hair.
Easy. It's so easy to speak about. And look, because I have such a deep love for women, I don't want to sell anything that I don't truly believe in. I get offers every single day on the table. Oh, will you talk about this? Oh, will you do this? Oh, will you? No, actually, I won't, because I really believe in relationships and I believe in authenticity. And William Burroughs always said, the only currency that you have in this lifetime is your name. So keep it clean.
Yeah.
And I take that very seriously, because my currency is protecting women and making sure that I am very authentic to what I'm giving them is truly the best. And if it's not, from my opinion, by the way, everyone has their own opinion, but my own expertise opinion. So virtue is a very easy sell for me, because millions and millions and millions of dollars have been going into just building this protein that repairs hair.
Amazing. I mean, all right, I'm looking at the time, and
I have to go. I have to go to Kimmel tonight to go and do this girl Mia Goth. So
my God,
she might have ugly hair if we don't finish up soon.
Okay, you're going to give me one more minute, because I am. You won the Hairstyles of the Year award at the Hollywood Beauty Awards.
Yes,
and it's presented to you by your dear friend Jennifer Garner.
Yes.
What did that mean to you?
Well, actually, no, that award was a different award. The Hollywood Beauty Award, Charlize Theron gave me award. The Daily Front Row Fashion LA Awards was given to me by Jennifer Garner.
And that was recently, right?
And that was recent. The other award, I think, was, I don't know, maybe a year ago.
Amazing. I mean, out of all of these achievements, is there one that has meant the most to you, or is there one moment?
It's a beautiful question. For me, the biggest moment is not the award. The biggest moment is the friendships that I have been able to create in my lifetime. And I think if there is a takeaway in general, is that relationships are the most important thing in your lifetime. I truly believe that, because it's how you build community. It's how you build trust. It's how you build support. It's how you build love. It's how you build friendships. And so for me, then giving me that award and listening to someone who has known me for 25 years, from being a kid and growing up together and having so many growing pains on all sides, right? On my side, on her side, me having breakups, them having breakups. Like, there's something that happens that you're able to still have that 25 years later. And so for me, that's the beauty of it. And the other element of it that I'm so proud of is being able to give my lessons to my mentees and then helping them get agents, helping them grow, seeing them. I call them my kids. They're my kids. I don't have any kids of my own, but I feel like I have hundreds of them in the world.
Amazing. And how lucky they are to have you.
Oh, how lucky am I? Seriously, everyone would have ugly hair in Hollywood without them, just so you know.
All right. Okay. What's the thing that you can't, like, what does everyone need to have on that hair? Is it like is there any special like tool that everybody needs besides a brush?
I believe everybody needs a great shampoo and conditioner, truly, because it really starts there. Because I believe that a healthy scalp gives you healthy hair, and you need something that is going to start right there. So if you're talking about hair, I believe that that's what you need. You need a great shampoo and conditioner that is going to give you results, that is really going to repair your hair. And that for me is only Virtue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And by the way, and at Virtue, what's wonderful is that, if you have damaged hair and you overcolor your hair, the recovery line is for you. If you tend to have frizz and live in very humid areas, smooth shampoo is right for you, right? If you have very fine hair that needs more volume, the full shampoo and conditioner is right for you. And if you're dealing with thinning and hair loss, then the Flourish line is what is needed for you. So I took all the problems and gave them solutions.
I see.
It's very, very simple. It's very easy to navigate through, and that's how you kind of find what you need for you. But I think that a great shampoo and conditioner is always the most important. It's like your cleanser for your face and your moisturizer. Those are the two things that you really need. The rest are add-ons.
And it's important to invest in those things.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. Look, our hair is in the elements all day long, right? You go into your bed, your hair should be clean. Your hair should be moisturized. You should feel great about yourself that way. And hair gives you a lot of confidence. It just does.
As I said, looking at myself right now, I can't believe
You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're perfect, my dream. You're perfect, my dream.
Okay, so what's next for you? What's next?
I think that there is a lot to think about in the future. I think a book is something that I'm very excited for. I don't really know where to even start because is it a book around my images? Is it a book around my life story? Is it
What about your life story with images? I mean going for the music video. I mean, that whole, all the, you have such a fascinating life story.
It is. It's interesting. I don't know. So I think that is something that I'm like kind of, and if you have any ideas, I would love to pick your brain on that as well, because you're obviously so smart and know so many people, and that could be something very interesting to kind of like think about. And I think it's always thinking of new ways that are sustainable, that can give benefits to humanity through my expertise of what I do and what I love.
Well, I adore you, and
Me too, Leslie.
I'm so happy to see you. And I'm very mindful of the time because you are.
Thank you, my love bugs. And please come and visit. You have a room in the house here anytime that you want to come. For reals.
Our daughter's doing this program at UCLA, so I have to drop her and pick her up. So I'll
baby, come stay. Come stay with us. Come stay with us. I'll make you an amazing dinner.
Ooh, you don't have to.
Moroccan food. Oh
my God,
and maybe we do a hike.
I mean, listen, the fact that I even survived that, that was not.
I don't know how we did it. I'm so grateful to your listeners. I'm so grateful to you. I'm so grateful that you bring interesting humans into your world and that you take the time to do this, because I know that, being a podcast host is not the biggest moneymaker in the world, but it's so beautiful to be able to share the friends and and their experiences with other people. So I'm honored to be here today with you.
I'm so grateful to you for taking the
Really?
time.
Me
Leslie.
too.
I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you, my
And
love.
I will text you before I come out.
That's me, for sure. For sure.
And then you're going to come see me in Nashville too.
I would love to,
Like,
by the way.
You know, all your, you know, your clients there.
I would love that. I would love that. I love you, kiddo.
You too, sweetie.
Okay.
That brings us to the end of this episode of The Interview. A huge thank you again to Adir Abergel for joining. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and follow us on Instagram at The Interview with Leslie. A new podcast is released every Wednesday. So until next week, this is Leslie Heaney, and don't forget to join The Interview.